It started as a night like any other. Quiet, slow, nothing unusual, just me and my husband settling down in the living room after dinner. The house felt warm, filled with the familiar sounds of evening. The clinking of dishes, the soft hum of the TV in the background, and the scent of candles I had lit a few minutes earlier. We were both exhausted from a long day, so we decided to just sit back and relax for a while. But little did we know, that night was about to take a turn none of us saw coming. We had recently moved into this neighborhood. Everything was new, the house, the neighbors, the surroundings. We were still adjusting, still trying to make this place feel like home. The people next door seemed friendly enough, waving when they saw us, smiling politely, but we hadn't had any real conversations. Just surface-level stuff. That night, though, everything shifted. It wasn't planned. It wasn't something we invited. It just happened. It started with a knock at the door. It was late, almost 9:30 p.m., and we weren't expecting anyone. My husband looked at me with that raised eyebrow expression, the one that said, "Are you expecting someone?" I shook my head. He went to answer it, cautiously. I watched from the couch as he opened the door. And there they were, 5 men. Strangers. Standing together, like they knew each other. They didn't look dangerous, but they didn't look lost either. There was something about the way they stood, the way they looked at us. Calm. Quiet. Like they belonged there, though we knew they didn't. My husband asked what they wanted. One of them smiled politely and said they were looking for someone who used to live here. That it was important. Said they had the wrong address, but something about their tone made the hairs on my arms stand up. They didn't try to come in. They didn't raise their voices. But there was a heaviness in the air. You could feel it. My husband, being the composed and cautious man he is, told them we just moved in and didn't know anything about the previous owners. They nodded, said thank you, and left just as quietly as they came. We thought that was the end of it. A weird moment, sure, but nothing more. We even joked about it later, wondering if we'd just experienced some bizarre neighborhood welcome. But deep down, something felt off. And that's when things got stranger. About 30 minutes later, we saw movement in the backyard. Shadows. At first, we thought it was just animals or maybe our imagination playing tricks on us. But then we saw them again. The same men. Not on our porch this time, but outside, near the fence. Watching. Not moving. Just watching. My husband stood up, tense now. He told me to stay inside, and he stepped out, locking the door behind him. I stayed close to the window, my heart pounding. I didn't know what he was going to say or do, but I couldn't stop watching. I kept my eyes on them. All 5. And then something happened, something that I still can't explain. One of them looked up, directly at the window where I stood. And he smiled. Not a kind smile. A knowing one. Like he could see straight through the glass, straight through me. And just like that, they turned around and disappeared into the night. When my husband came back in, he was pale. He didn't say much, only that they were gone. But I could tell from the way he avoided my eyes that something had happened out there, something he wasn't ready to talk about. We sat in silence for a long time, staring at the front door, waiting, wondering if they'd come back. And that was only the beginning. That night, neither of us slept. We kept the lights on in the hallway and the curtains drawn, every little sound making us flinch. My husband sat up in bed, staring at his phone like he was expecting a call or a message, though none ever came. I lay next to him, pretending to scroll through social media, but my mind was racing. Who were they? Why our house? Why now? The next morning, things felt strange, almost too quiet. You know when something happens that's just off, and even though everything looks normal on the outside, you can feel the shift? That's exactly how it was. I made coffee, but my hands shook as I poured it. My husband didn't even drink his. He kept looking out the window, like he was trying to piece together something that still didn't make sense. Later that day, I decided to dig a little. I went online and searched for any history about the house, old listings, articles, anything. At first, there was nothing out of the ordinary. Just basic information. But then I found an old blog post buried deep in a local forum. It was from a woman who had lived here years ago. Her post wasn't long, but the words gave me chills. She wrote about people showing up at night, knocking but never explaining why they were there. She said they never forced their way in, but they always returned, like they were waiting for something or someone. I tried to show my husband, but he brushed it off. Probably just an old neighborhood rumor, he said, though he didn't sound convinced. I could tell he was trying to protect me, to keep things from spiraling out of control. But the truth was, he was just as uneasy as I was. That same afternoon, I talked to one of our neighbors, a woman named Carol, who lived across the street. She was older, kind, the kind of person who always watered her plants and waved to everyone. I brought up what happened, carefully, not giving too many details, just enough to see if it triggered anything. She went quiet, her eyes narrowing slightly. Then she said something I'll never forget. You know, you're not the first people to ask questions about this place. I asked what she meant, and she hesitated. She looked around, lowered her voice, and said, over the years, there's been patterns. Strange visitors. Always men. Always at night. They come, they look around, and then they leave. No one really talks about it anymore. It's like everyone just decided to forget. That only made things worse. Patterns? Visitors? And yet no one said a word? That night, my husband decided to check the outside cameras, the ones we had just installed a few weeks before, mainly for security. What we saw was unsettling. The footage showed the 5 men, standing near our backyard fence, just like I'd seen. But they weren't moving. Not pacing. Not talking. Just standing still, like statues, for nearly 20 minutes. Then, at the exact same time, they all turned and walked away, no signal, no words exchanged. Like they were following some silent command. We replayed it 3 times. Each time felt more disturbing. After that, we started keeping the doors double locked and stopped answering any unexpected knocks. I even started sleeping with the bedroom door cracked open just slightly, so I could hear everything. My husband and I were on edge, barely speaking about what had happened, but we both knew it wasn't over. There were too many questions still floating in the air. Too many moments that didn't make sense. And deep down, we both had the same feeling, they were coming back. A few days passed, but the feeling never left. It was like the walls themselves had soaked in the tension. Even in broad daylight, the air inside the house felt thick, like we were being watched or listened to. I started noticing small things out of place. A kitchen drawer left slightly open. The back gate, which we always kept locked, swinging gently even though there was no wind. My husband tried to rationalize everything, saying maybe we were just being paranoid. But I could see it in his eyes, he was just as unsettled as I was. One evening, I got a message from an unknown number. No name. Just a photo. It was blurry, taken from what looked like the end of our street. But in the background, I could clearly make out the 5 men, standing in a line again. No caption. Nothing else. I showed it to my husband. He went pale, then immediately started calling the number. It went straight to voicemail every time. This is when the real conflict began, not just with the men, but between the two of us. We started arguing about what to do. He wanted to go to the police. I didn't. What were we going to tell them? That 5 strangers had been silently watching us, without breaking any laws? I was afraid we'd sound crazy, like we were just making things up. Plus, deep down, I felt like whatever this was, it wasn't something the police could fix. At the same time, I started having strange dreams. Not nightmares exactly, but vivid and haunting. In each one, I'd wake up to find the 5 men inside the house. Not hurting us. Just standing in different rooms. Watching. It always ended the same way. I'd find my husband missing, and I'd be alone, unable to speak or move. I started dreading sleep, and I know he did too. We both looked exhausted all the time. Then something happened that made everything worse. Carol, our neighbor across the street, suddenly packed up and left. No warning. No goodbye. One afternoon, we saw a moving truck outside. She didn't even speak to us. Just got in her car and drove off. I tried texting her later that night, and the message never delivered. It was like she vanished. That same night, we heard it again. A knock. Soft. Slow. Just like before. This time, neither of us moved. We just sat there in silence, staring at the door, waiting. The knock came again. Louder this time. Still slow. Measured. Like whoever was on the other side knew exactly what kind of fear it would stir up. We didn't speak. My husband's hand hovered over his phone, ready to call someone, anyone, but we both knew it wouldn't matter. A call wouldn't change what was already outside. I stood up, against every instinct in my body, and walked slowly toward the window. Just like the first time, the curtains were drawn, but there was a narrow gap where I could see through. I leaned in. My breath caught in my throat. They were all there. The 5 of them. Standing on the porch in complete silence, facing the door. Same clothes, same emotionless faces. They didn't knock again. They didn't need to. Behind me, my husband whispered, "We need to leave." But I couldn't answer. I was frozen, not from fear, but from something else. Something deeper. It felt like I was remembering something, but I didn't know what. Like my body recognized them before my mind did. I pulled away from the window and looked at him. What if they're not here for us? I said quietly. That's when the lights flickered. Just once. A quick blink. Then again. Then the whole house went dark. The silence that followed was unbearable. No TV hum. No fridge buzz. Just the sound of our breathing and the distant echo of footsteps on the porch, slow, deliberate. They weren't leaving this time. My husband reached for the flashlight in the drawer and turned it on. The beam cut through the darkness, shaky in his hand. We backed into the hallway, unsure where to go. Every corner felt like a trap. Every creak of the floor made us flinch. Then we heard something we hadn't before, a voice. It was low, muffled, like it came from under the house. Or inside it. We stopped moving. And then we heard the doorknob turn. Slowly. Quietly. They weren't knocking anymore. They were coming in. The doorknob kept turning, slow and steady, like whoever was on the other side wasn't in any hurry. My husband tightened his grip on the flashlight, ready to swing if he had to. I held my breath, heart pounding in my ears. But then, just as the door clicked open, a sudden bang echoed from the back of the house. We both turned toward it, startled. Something, or someone, was now inside. We moved fast. My husband pulled me into the hallway, and we locked the bedroom door behind us. The flashlight beam danced across the room, searching for anything, any sign of movement. We waited, barely breathing, when another sound came. This time, from the closet. A quiet, slow knock. From the inside. My knees nearly gave out. My husband stepped forward, whispering my name, trying to keep me calm. The knock came again, softer now, like it was just a few inches away. He raised the flashlight, reached for the doorknob, but before he could open it, a voice came through the wall. A whisper, low and trembling. "They're not here for you, they're here because of what's under the house." We froze. That voice wasn't one of the men. It sounded like a woman. Scared. Weak. Like she had been trapped down there for days. My husband stepped back, unsure what to do. We both looked toward the floor, as if expecting it to break open. And suddenly everything felt different. The 5 men, the knocks, the photos, they weren't the center of this. They were watching something. Guarding something. Or maybe, waiting for it to wake up. A cold draft swept across the room. It didn't come from a window. It came from beneath the floorboards. That's when the closet door creaked open on its own. And we realized we weren't just being watched. We were standing in whatever it was they had been waiting for. The closet door swung open, but it wasn't empty. Inside, huddled in the corner, was a woman, pale, shaking, covered in dirt and dust like she hadn't seen daylight in weeks. Her eyes met mine, wide and full of fear. "Please," she whispered, "you have to seal the crawl space, before it finds a way out." Before we could respond, a deep, guttural sound rumbled beneath us. The floor vibrated, like something alive was moving below. My husband shined the flashlight toward the vent near the baseboard, and we both saw it, faint but unmistakable. Fingers. Thin, gray, clawed fingers reaching through the slats, scratching the floor from underneath. The woman screamed, "They're not trying to hurt you, they're trying to contain it." Everything snapped into place. The 5 men, they weren't our enemies. They were sentinels, guarding whatever had been buried under this house. Something ancient. Something never meant to be disturbed. And somehow, we had triggered it. We ran. My husband grabbed the woman, and we sprinted toward the basement, the only access to the crawl space. The walls trembled. The lights overhead flickered back on for a moment, revealing the 5 men now standing silently at each doorway, not chasing, but watching. Waiting to see if we would do what they couldn't. We reached the crawl space door. My husband slammed it shut, reinforced it with everything we could find. As the final latch clicked into place, the rumbling stopped. It was over. Or so we thought. That night, while packing to leave the house for good, I found a note slipped under our front door. 4 words. No signature. We'll need you next. We left the house before sunrise. We didn't take much, just what we could grab in a few minutes. None of it seemed to matter anymore. The house that was supposed to be our fresh start had turned into something else entirely. We didn't speak much during the drive. Every few minutes, I'd glance at the back seat, half expecting to see one of the 5 men sitting there. But it stayed empty. Quiet. Later, I called the real estate agent and told her we wouldn't be returning. I didn't go into detail, just said something came up. I asked her about the history of the house again. This time, she paused before answering. There's been a few owners who didn't stay long, she admitted. But nothing on record. Just people who moved quickly, like you. The woman we found in the closet never showed up in any police reports. We tried to find her, even reached out to local hospitals, but no one had seen her. It was like she vanished the moment we closed that crawl space. And the note, "We'll need you next," we kept it. Folded, hidden deep in a box we didn't unpack. Sometimes I wonder what it means. Why us? Were we chosen? Or were we just the next in a long list of unlucky strangers who crossed into something too old, too dark, to understand? We've moved far from that house now. New city. New life. But some nights, I wake up from dreams of 5 shadows at our door. Waiting. Watching. Still deciding if it's time to return.